What's going on, guys? It's your homeboy Jojo Kaiser here. I'm back again with another storytime video for you guys today. Hope you all are having yourselves a fantastic day. I know I am. And in today's story time, I'm going to be talking about how I caught my teacher taking in a certain substance that I can't necessarily say on YouTube because I know for a fact that YouTube will take down the video due to their broken system. But hey, you gotta do what you gotta do in terms of making videos on the internet. So there you have it. But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. With all that said, let's get on with today's story time. So today's story time takes place back in 10th grade. So I did my daily routine during this time as a generic teenager. I would get up, brush my teeth, take a shower, eat breakfast. You guys know the gist at this point. So I make it to school, I sit down in the lunchroom, I start talking with a couple of friends of mine, and overall, things are going pretty well. Nothing weird is going on so far for a change, which is awesome. So anyways, fast forward a couple of periods later, in comes chemistry class. So for some context in regards to my teacher for the story, my teacher, who for the sake of the story time, I'm gonna call Mr. Mike, was a pretty decent teacher that I had during this time. I didn't have any issues with him. He would constantly make an effort to help every single one of his students with assignments and stuff like that. One time, when everyone got really good grades in a particular test that he wanted us to do, the very next week, he took the entire class on a bowling trip for the entire day. So yeah, needless to say, Mr. Mike was a really cool teacher that a lot of people really liked. However, one thing about Mr. Mike that, not everyone really liked in terms of his personality is that he would constantly give people detention for being late to his class pretty much all the time, which, I kind of understand where Mr. Mike was coming from, but that particular piece of detail is really important later on, and you're about to hear why, so please keep that in mind. So back to the story. Chemistry class starts, and, so far, everyone is getting ready for, that particular day's lesson. Everyone except for one of my friends that came into class very late due to him obviously waking up very late, which is obviously a bad thing and you shouldn't do that. So he finally gets into class like 15 minutes later, and usually whenever a student was late to Mr. Mike's class, he would actually yell at the student and give them detention right then and there for being late to class, which again, I kind of understand where Mr. Mike was coming from in that aspect. You don't want any of your students to constantly be late to your class or whatever the case may be, but I feel like yelling at your students and constantly giving them detention is a bit too much in my personal opinion. But for some reason, Mr. Mike doesn't yell at my friend. Actually, as a matter of fact, Mr. Mike was in a really good mood, more so than usual for some reason. All he does is tell my friend to just sit down next to me, and he continues on with that particular day's lesson. So a few minutes later, my friend who came in late, who for the sake of this story time, I'm gonna call Jack, leans over to me and says, hey dude, doesn't Mr. Mike seem strange to you? I said, yeah, kinda. Usually Mr. Mike would yell at someone for being late, but it seems like he's in a really good mood today. Don't really know why. But anyways, fast forward to the end of the day, my friend is about to go into Mr. Mike's room for, detention, because he received detention for being late. And as I'm going home, or as I'm about to go home, Jack runs up to me with a very surprised look on his face. So he runs up to me and says, dude, I gotta tell you something. So I'm like, okay, what happened? So then Jack was like, bro, you gotta come with me right now. And then Jack proceeds to drag me all the way to Mr. Mike's room that's closed, but for some reason the lights were still on, which makes sense because that's Mr. Mike's room, or classroom, so I guess he would be in his classroom pretty obviously. So then I turn to Jack and say to him, wait, aren't you supposed to be in detention with Mr. Mike right now? So then Jack says, yeah, that's the problem. I was about to go into the room, but then I noticed that Mr. Mike was doing something in the room. Go look. So obviously me being very curious, because here's my friend literally standing next to me looking all scared but also angry at the exact same time at my teacher because he thinks that my teacher is doing something in the room. So obviously that piqued my interest. So what ended up happening is that I look through the door window of the classroom and I see Mr. Mike literally doing something that is obviously bad for teachers to do at school. All I'm gonna say in terms of not providing any personal information or whatever the case may be is that, he was getting high. There's literally no other way for me to describe exactly what it is that my teacher is doing at that moment. He is literally getting high at his own desk in the classroom. Now at first, I didn't want to open the door because I didn't want to get myself in trouble for seeing one of my favorite teachers during the time pretty much getting high. No student wants to see that. But as soon as I have that thought in my head, Jack decides to literally kick the classroom door wide open with his bare foot, looking very pissed off. Now, when I saw this, I was really shocked because I wasn't expecting my friend to do that so aggressively, and neither was Mr. Mike, because as soon as my friend did that, he fell to the ground along with his substance that was getting him high, which I won't name because I don't want this video to get taken down, once again, due to YouTube's broken systems and policies. So anyways, we both see Mr. Mike fall to the ground, and then a few seconds later afterwards, Mr. Mike proceeds to get really pissed off at us for some reason. Like, I'm sorry, dude, but you're a teacher. I'm pretty sure a teacher shouldn't be, I don't know, getting high in the middle of a classroom while he's working. I feel like it makes sense to not do something like that, especially when you're around other students. But anyways, he falls to the ground. We see this. A few seconds later, he gets pissed off. So he starts screaming at both of us, asking us what we were doing and why we didn't knock on the door instead of barging into the room, which, to be fair, was a good point. Like, my friend didn't technically need to barge into the room like that by kicking the door with his literal foot. That makes sense. You do have a point there. But then Jack says, "What am I doing? What are you doing getting high in the middle of the classroom, Mr. Mike?" Which, once again, that was also a good point to make on my friend's part. So anyways, they're going back and forth with each other until I finally chime in and say, "Look, Mr. Mike, you're right. Like, we're sorry for barging into the room like that. Without knocking. My friend obviously shouldn't have done that. But you gotta admit, getting high in the middle of a classroom when you're a teacher, like still on the clock, is even worse when you think about it. Because yeah, I get it. It can be a little bit annoying sometimes when people barge into the room without knocking first. I totally understand where you're coming from, Mr. Mike. But I feel like getting high when you're supposed to be working is even more annoying and stupid. But hey, that's just my opinion. So anyways, I'm telling Mr. Mike all of this, and eventually he sighs and says, "Look, I know that it's really messed up for me to do this in the middle of a classroom in front of my students. Like, I understand completely how messed up it is for someone like me to do that, especially in front of my students. I apologize for doing this. How about this? I won't give you guys any more detention slips for the rest of the year if you guys promise me that you won't tell the principal about this." Like, he was trying to bribe us, his students, for not telling the principal about him doing something bad. Like, yeah, that seems kind of messed up for a teacher to do. So then my friend says, "All right, I won't say anything if I don't have to go to detention today and for the rest of the year." I think that's at least a little bit fair for us catching you pretty much getting high in the middle of the classroom. So then I say, "Yeah, Mr. Mike, I think that's a little bit fair. Like, my friend does have a point. You probably shouldn't be doing that." And then Mr. Mike says, "That's fine. Just please leave my classroom." We both said sure, and we went home. And then for the rest of the school year, like, no joke, Mr. Mike was super nice to us. Like, whenever we were late, which, we were late quite a few times, me and my friend. Obviously not on purpose, but, we were late. He wouldn't yell at us or give us detention for being late. And that was actually that. He didn't really get in trouble because, me and my friend, we don't snitch. We don't snitch as long as someone else doesn't snitch. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not that type of person that wants to, snitch on people. And, afterwards, he actually stopped pretty much getting high at school, which was great. Wherever Mr. Mike is right now, I hope that he's not making the exact same mistakes as before. And I'm gonna be honest when I say that I really did like him as a teacher. It's just that him getting high in school was an aspect of him that not only me, but I'm pretty sure no other student wants to, experience with their teacher. But yeah, things were pretty much okay afterwards. Between me, my friend, and my teacher, we were just okay. Like, we didn't hate each other, which was cool. And yeah, guys, that's pretty much the end of the story about how I caught my teacher pretty much getting high in the middle of the classroom when I was in 10th grade. I hope you all enjoyed today's story time. Moral of the story is, just don't get high when you're supposed to be working. Especially when you're working at a job where there's hundreds upon hundreds, possibly thousands of kids around you. Like, maybe you shouldn't be doing that. So yeah, if you all enjoyed this video, I highly recommend liking the video and subscribing to my channel for more of my dumb content in the future. So as of right now, I am taking story requests. So if anyone has any interesting stories that they want me to, share on my channel, don't be afraid to send them through my business email down below. And I'll definitely make sure to give you guys credit, for the video ideas, because, I'm not a dickhead. I'm not just going to take all the credit for it. I will make sure that you guys get as much credit as possible if you send me, like, any crazy stories about people, like, regardless of how short or how long it is. Like, it doesn't really matter. I'll maybe make a video about it. Who knows? But with all that said, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. This is JoJo Kaiser, signing out. Make sure you stay sexy and wear a condom. Peace!